That's a boon to the Republicans at the moment. Ariane DeVoe is outside of the Supreme Court on this big day. Ariane, what are the big major takeaways as we wrap up this session?
Right. This is the last day of the term. Two big politically charged cases, and Chief Justice John Roberts, he was at the center of both of them. The first one, that census case that you mentioned. In the vote that mattered, Chief Justice John Roberts, 5-4 with the liberals, sending the case back down to the lower court. That blocks the question for now, and it raises the question of whether or not the Trump administration is going to have enough time to add it in time for the next census. Chief Justice John Roberts, he really focused on the reasons put forward for adding the question. And this is what he said: we cannot ignore the disconnect between the decision made and the explanation given. Keep in mind, the government said all along that the question was necessary to comply with the Voting Rights Act. Challengers said that it was a veiled attempt to intimidate minority voters. But in the second case, John, that was a totally different circumstance. This case had to do with the census question, and here with partisan gerrymandering. And here, Chief Justice John Roberts, he sided with the conservatives here, and he slammed the courthouse doors shut on these kind of challenges that go to when politicians go too far in drawing district lines for partisan gains. Critics said that the courts needed to step in here because this system had run amok. But Chief Justice John Roberts, again, with the conservatives, he said that such claims are beyond the reach of federal courts. That drew a biting dissent from Justice Elena Kagan. She said of all the time to abandon the court's duty to declare the law, this was not the time. She said she read the dissent from the bench, and she said she was deeply saddened about this.
Ariane DeVoe outside the court. Appreciate the insights. Pretty remarkable. 5-4 decisions, both by the Chief Justice, siding with different blocks on the courts. A big day. With me here in studio to share the reporting and their insights, CNN Joan Biskupuk, Annie Linsky with the Washington Post, Vivian Salama with the Wall Street Journal, and Rachel Bade with the Washington Post. So this is the Roberts Court. The final day cements that, if you had any doubt about it. Let's start with the gerrymandering case. The census case has been more in the debate in Washington, the here and now immediacy. The gerrymandering case has the impact to have much more meaning as this goes forward. And at the moment, it benefits Republicans because they have more governors, they have more legislatures. So to the victor go the spoils. The Supreme Court essentially saying, go the spoils on steroids if you so choose. We won't get involved.
On steroids is right when you consider what's happening with extreme partisan gerrymandering across the country. Two things to note here. This has been a project of Chief Justice John Roberts. He has wanted to remove federal judges across the country from assessing these partisan gerrymanders. And he was able to do it this term with the vote of Brett Kavanaugh, who succeeded Anthony Kennedy, who was the fifth vote leaving the door slightly open to allowing these kinds of challenges. And interestingly, the chief said, we don't want judges involved in politics. But the dissent said, you're playing right into politics. Look what is happening to democracy. These voting maps are getting rigged based on sophisticated data, polling analysis, computer maps. So he got what he really wanted in this one.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll have to see how it affects Washington here, because we've been hearing up, on Capitol Hill that gerrymandering is one of the major reasons why we're seeing partisan tensions increase, over the past few decades. I mean, Cook Political Report has said that only 20% of congressional districts are actually swing districts held by sort of moderate voices, and that's a decrease by more than 50% over the past 2 decades. So you're with these gerrymandering districts, you have more increasingly partisan politicians. They don't have to work across the aisle, and that could affect politics here in Washington.
And it's going to be really interesting to see how this emboldens a lot of politicians around the country. I mean, today's ruling obviously focused on Maryland and South Carolina, but you have issues like this in Georgia and elsewhere in the country, and it's going to come up over and over again. And a lot of politicians are going to feel emboldened, like this is their opportunity.
Because you can use a database now. You can use a database now. You know where the voters live, and you know if you have to deal with voting rights issues, some of those issues. You can still come back if it's a race race-based, some other standards, you can come back. But the court essentially saying now, if you're the Republican governor of state X and you have a Republican legislature, even if your state's divided 50-50, you can draw the congressional districts in a way or the state legislative districts in a way that benefit you overwhelmingly.
That's right. There is a counterpoint that's sort of a less popular one. That's a defense of the Maryland map in particular, and it's the map that the defense that was used when this map was challenged in the state courts, which is this: that when you gerrymander, and you took for Maryland, it went from a 4-4 state, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, to having 7-1, 7 Democrats, 1 Republican. What that meant is those Democratic districts are a little bit tougher for Democrats to hold on to. The voting performance is not as high, and the argument that there was like an argument out there that says, look, these are more moderate members because they actually do have more Republicans in their district. It was an argument that won in the Maryland courts.
Well,
and it is
something about what has won below, because the chief said, John, that federal judges have no standard to assess this. But the truth is that lower court judges have been figuring out ways to assess this, not just in Maryland, but in North Carolina and Ohio and Michigan. So all over the country, as the dissenting justices pointed out in a very passionate dissent by Elena Kagan from the bench, judges are working with this. Don't you, Chief Justice Roberts, throw up your hands and say it's impossible.
Right, and that's to that point. You see some of the 2020ers weighing in. Kamala Harris saying politicians shouldn't be able to pick their voters. Cory Booker saying essentially the same thing in a tweet. Voters should be able to choose their politicians, not the other way around. I mean, because they do use these computer databases now to do this. It'll be interesting to see. Again, benefits Republicans today because they have more governors and more legislatures. 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 6 years from now, could flip that one over. You get a little back and forth. Let's come back to the census case. The court did not say the Constitution prohibits you from asking this question. It did not say that.
It said just the opposite.
Right, just the opposite.
You can do that.
You can do that. What it said, though, is that there was new evidence introduced as the case was in the pipeline, therefore back to court for you. But in that, the Chief Justice also took a shot at the Commerce Secretary in the Trump administration. They have said essentially some guy at an agency proposed we do this, and we said, yeah, sure. The evidence in the case is hogwash. This has been discussed at the White House. This has been discussed at the Secretary level. He essentially said, altogether, the evidence tells a story that does not match the explanation the Secretary gave for this decision. We are presented, in other words, with an explanation for agency action that is incongruent with what the record reveals about the agency's priorities and decision-making. The court essentially saying the Trump administration lied about how this happened to the courts. But it sends it back, not saying because you lied doesn't mean you can't ask the question. The question is, can the lower courts resolve this in time to possibly have that question be on the census?
You've made exactly the right point, because in many ways, this is a ruling that could help the administration down the road. But on this particular point of the Commerce Secretary saying the sole reason we did this was to enforce the Voting Rights Act, that the chief said, we're going to defer to you, but we're not going to be duped. That wasn't the sole reason. So if hearings are able to go on, I expect the administration might be able to say, contrary to what it had been saying to this point, that we're running out of time, maybe there is more time.
It just process matters. I mean, the Trump administration, it seems like again and again gets caught up in the, in their process being so out of whack. And I just think having the Supreme Court call them out on that, you'd hope maybe other agencies will look to that. Like, look, we need to do this the right way and not just, slap some question on.
Those who don't like the question think that it will lead to a massive undercount because of mistrust, distrust in the Latino community. That is still unresolved. This case goes back to the lower court, and it is possible the administration could still, the clock's ticking. You got to get the forms ready, you got to get the process ready, the procedure ready, but it's possible we're not done with this.
Well, and this is also a perfect opportunity for us to look at the consequences of an election, and now we're going to go into a Democratic debate tonight where elections matter, and now we have a court which is skewed to the right, and these decisions are going to come one after the other where the right is going to dominate. And so while the Trump administration may not have gotten a clear victory on the census issue, on gerrymandering, this is one case where they can point and say, there we go, like we were successful in packing the courts and it's going to work in our favor in the future, and something for people to think about.
It's a reason to tune in tonight to see more debates, to get more wrinkles, and we'll continue that. Up next for us, the 2020 candidates on stage last night. Gamble the country is ready to move far to the left, and some try to score extra points with Latinos by showcasing their Spanish.
And it's going to take all of us coming together to make sure that it does. Necesitamos incluir cada persona en el éxito de esta economía.
La situación ahora es inaceptable.
Este presidente ha atacado, ha demonizado los inmigrantes. Es inaceptable y voy a cambiar este.
January 20th, 2021, we'll say adios to Donald Trump.
Wow, that's Ensure Max Protein with high protein and 1 gram sugar.
It's a sit-up and an upend at the waist. I'm trying.
Keep it up. You'll get there.
Whoa!
30 grams of protein and 1 gram of sugar. Ensure Max Protein.
My experience with USA Air has been excellent. They really appreciate the military family, and it really shows.
With all that USAA offers, why go with anybody else? We know their rates are good. We know that they're always going to take care of us.
It was an instant savings, and I should have changed a long time ago.
It was funny because when we would call another insurance company, they would say, oh, we can't be USAA.
We're the Weber family.
We're the Tennies.
We're the Hells, and we're USAA members for life.
Get your USAA auto insurance quote today.
Through the AT&T network, edge-to-edge intelligence gives you the power to see every corner of your growing business. From managing inventory to detecting and preventing threats, to scaling up your production, giving you a nice big edge over your competition. That's the power of edge-to-edge intelligence.
After my DVT blood clot, I wondered, is another one around the corner? Or could it be different than I thought? I wanted to help protect myself. My doctor recommended Eliquis. Eliquis is proven to treat and help prevent another DVT or PE blood clot. Almost 98% of patients on Eliquis didn't experience another. And Eliquis has significantly less major bleeding than the standard treatment. Eliquis is FDA approved and has both.
Don't stop Eliquis unless your doctor tells you to. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. If you had a spinal injection while on Eliquis, call your doctor right away if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. While taking Eliquis, you may bruise more easily, and it may take longer than usual for bleeding to stop. Seek immediate medical care for sudden signs of bleeding, like unusual bruising. Eliquis may increase your bleeding risk if you take certain medicines. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures.
What's around the corner could be surprising. Ask your doctor about Eliquis.
How do these other OTC medicines compare to Xyzal? Well, looky here. Xyzal works faster than Claritin and lasts up to 6 times longer than Benadryl. So for the latest and powerful relief that's just as effective at hour 24 as at hour 1, be wise all. Take Xyzal.
I switched to Miralax for my constipation. Stimulant laxatives forcefully stimulate the nerves in your colon. Miralax works with the water in your body to unblock your system naturally, and it doesn't cause bloating, cramping, gas, or sudden urgency. Miralax. Look for the pink app.
When cravings come on strong, be stronger. With new Nicorette Coated Ice Mint, layered with flavor. It's the first and only coated nicotine lozenge for an amazing taste that outlasts your craving. New Nicorette Ice Mint.
My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but now I take Metamucil every day. It traps and removes the waste that weighs me down, so I feel lighter. Try Metamucil and begin to feel what lighter feels like.
Thanks, Golden Corral. Dan gets a slow smoked sirloin, and my little trio are as happy as shrimp. Oops, clams. And Mom got it all. Hook, line, and sirloin. The slow smoked sirloin and shrimp trio. Golden Corral, the only one for everyone.
You want a fresh-smelling home, but some air fresheners use heavy, overwhelming scents. Introducing Febreze One, a new range of innovative air fresheners with no heavy perfumes that you can feel good about using in your home to deliver a light, natural-smelling freshness. Febreze One neutralizes stale, stuffy odors and releases a subtle hint of fragrance like bamboo or lemongrass ginger. To eliminate odors with no heavy perfumes, try new Febreze One. Brand power helping you buy better.
This is not a bed. It's a revolution in sleep. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed is on sale now during our lowest prices of the season. It senses your movement and automatically adjusts to keep you both comfortable. It even helps with this. So you wake up ready to hit the ground running. It's the lowest prices of the season. The Queen Sleep Number 360 C4 smart bed is now $12.99. Save $400 plus 0% interest for 36 months and Saturday. Sleep Number, proven quality sleep.
Debate Night 1 is in the books, and what happened last night tells us a lot about the next 8 months. A big audience for 10 Democrats last night, and for many of the candidates, Wednesday, their first real chance to talk to American voters. Julian Castro making a big impression.
Watching that image of Oscar and his daughter Valeria is heartbreaking. It should also piss us all off.
No Joe Biden on the stage, so Elizabeth Warren essentially last night playing the de facto frontrunner. She helped set the tone on policy.
We can make our government, we can make our economy, we can make our country work, not just for those at the top. We can make it work for everyone, and I promise you this, I will fight for you as hard as I fight for my own family. We've had an industrial policy in the United States for decades now, and it's basically been let giant corporations do whatever they want to do. Giant corporations have exactly one loyalty, and that is to profits.
Warren there reflecting the biggest dynamic across the stage last night. The candidates are pulling the Democratic Party to the left on health care, immigration, taxes, climate, corporations. The candidates, most of them anyway, want more government say-so, expansive and expensive policies like Medicare for all, carbon